and I was asked to do that by a tremendous guy named Dana White. You know Dana White of UFC, and he said, "Would you do an interview with them?" And they're hot as a pistol, and they have like I guess the top show or something. And so I did it, and we had a lot of fun. It was a half hour or so, and it became very much a sensation. I guess they had 6 million hits in a very short period of time. It was the #1 they've ever done, and then. I told them, I said, don't worry, it'll be taken down because I'm doing it. It'll be taken down. We talked about very good things, and we talked about a lot of policy, good policies, including energy independence and all of that. And I just heard a little while ago they got taken down. This is not a free press. Big tech is a disaster, and our country is a much different place. What they're doing is really terrible. This is what they do in Russia. You know, if you look at Russia, Russia doesn't know. The people in Russia, they don't even know that they're fighting a war with Ukraine because they have no press. But we don't have a press either. We don't have a press either where they can do that. We had a very good conversation. 4 young guys, great people, great, and, you know, hot show. Dana White only knows about hot. And this was the best show they've done, I guess, in terms of views by many times. And they actually took it down. And really what it is, Sean, is they've taken away the voice of the people. And I don't think the people will stand for it any longer. This is what's happening, and this is what happens in other countries. It's not supposed to happen in this country.
Let me ask you, Mr. President, you see what is going on with Vladimir Putin. He invaded a sovereign country. You see that a maternity hospital was hit yesterday. You see that entire neighborhoods have been leveled. We showed some images. There was a mass grave of about 70 people. We've seen dead bodies of men, women, and children in the streets of Ukraine. Your reaction to what you're seeing?
Well, my reaction is it's so sad because this would have never happened. If we had the Trump administration, there was no chance that this would happen. And I know him well. And this was not something that was going to happen at all. And next you'll see. I mean, let's see what happens. Let's just watch. But when this horrible situation happened in Afghanistan, it's not even believable how incompetent it was. The way they withdrew or surrendered or whatever you want to call it. Bad things started happening for our country. The border's bad. A lot of things are bad. Inflation's bad. But the way they got out of Afghanistan looked like a complete surrender. And I'll tell you, Putin was watching, and President Xi was watching, and the leaders in Iran were watching, and Kim Jong-un was watching, North Korea. They were all watching, Sean. And I'll tell you, bad things started to happen. They no longer respect our country, and that's how this came about. It would have never, ever happened, and he understood that. We talked about it, and we talked about it strongly.
Because under the Biden-Obama administration in 2014, they annexed Crimea. Nothing happened when you were president, and now this just happened with Ukraine once again, and now they're invading the whole damn country, and innocent men, women, and children are getting killed. And let me ask you, you say under your administration this never would have happened. Why do you say that with such confidence?
Well, before I answer that, I'll tell you that under the Bush administration, it was Georgia. Not the Georgia that we know and love, but Georgia nevertheless. It was Georgia. And so it happened, but nothing happened during our administration. And that includes with Taiwan. Now they're flying bombers right over the middle of Taiwan. That didn't take place. Nobody discussed it. And I also had the conversation with President Xi of China. But I had a very strong conversation with President Putin, and he understood, and I won't go into the great details of the conversation because nobody has to know that. But I will tell you, it never, ever would have happened if I was president, if we had the Trump administration in there, like we had tremendous years, tremendous success, economy, energy independence, all of the things that the largest tax cuts in the history of our country, which helped bring about the greatest economy we've ever had. This would have never, ever happened. So when I look at it, and I look at the horrible things taking place, you wouldn't even believe what's taking place. I mean, to have everything on video, because people have cell phones today. So you see all of this, you see most of it in one form or another on video. It's a horrible thing to watch. It would have never happened, and it never should have happened. I just watched on your show, I just watched the vice president laughing about the immigration, that's this horrible situation with the immigration, and I just watched the laugh, and it was almost like the laugh of a mad woman to be laughing about that. It's a sad situation. We have people in there that are grossly incompetent, and you know it, and so does everybody else. And by the way, and so do the Democrats know it.
I'm going to get back to the issue of why Putin wouldn't do it if you were president. You came under some fire when you said that Vladimir Putin's very smart. I think I know you a little bit better than most people in the media, and I think you also recognize he's evil, do you not?
Well, I was referring to the fact that he said this is an independent nation, talking about Ukraine, and I said some said this is before there was any attack. He's calling it an independent nation. Now, a lot of things are changing. When you look, this doesn't seem to be the same Putin that I was dealing with. But I will tell you, he wouldn't have changed. If I were dealing with him, he wouldn't have changed. You know, I supplied, and I know Biden is trying to take credit, and they're all trying to take credit about many of the things, incredible things that we did in the Trump administration. But we supplied the anti-tank busters. They're called javelins. And without them, you wouldn't have anything like what's happening. I mean, they're knocking out the tanks one after another after another, and this has become a much tougher situation, much tougher. Also, gunnery for the aircraft, for knocking out aircraft. You know, a lot of aircraft's been knocked out of the air. That's why everyone's saying, how come there aren't very many Russian planes overhead? Well, we hit them with the Stingers and all of the other things that we supplied. We supplied tremendous amounts of equipment so they could defend themselves, and they've done a great job. You look at what's happening, however, with the planes. That's all botched up. The planes from Poland, that's all botched up, and
would you have allowed those
to be watching?
Would you have provided planes to Ukraine now that they're showing a willingness to take on Putin and fight?
Well, I would have done it a lot differently than they've done it, and what they've done is just terrible. Back and forth between the United States. Look, Biden, every time he gets up, he says they are a nuclear nation. He should say we are a nuclear nation. And, you know, I rebuilt our whole nuclear arsenal. Stronger, bigger, better than ever before. It's better and it's bigger than Russia. He should say we are a nuclear nation and we don't want war and we don't want to wipe out anything to do and we don't want to wipe out Russia. This is the way he should be talking. Instead, he's saying we don't want war. We're not, you know, he doesn't talk about our nuclear capability. He keeps saying that they are a nuclear nation. We don't want war. And he's playing right into Putin's hands when he does that. But Putin's having a lot of trouble right now. He's having big trouble because he thought this was going to be a 48-hour deal. And the Ukrainians are good fighters. And largely, to a large extent, or certainly a big help, was the fact that we gave them a lot of javelins. You know, they say, I don't know if you know, Sean, they say that Obama, Biden gave them blankets, and Trump gave them anti-tank busters and javelins.
Mr. President, I've been able to confirm about the last 18 months, if my memory serves me well, of your presidency, the Taliban, they didn't kill a single American. I have been told, people that heard the conversation with you and the head of the Taliban, and you got criticized for even negotiating with them, but you were pulling out, and you were going to leave X number of troops in place, and the military would leave last. You confirmed all of that to me. But people told me before you ever began the negotiations that you said to the head of the Taliban, let me make sure you fully understand me, or something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, that if you don't follow, if we make an agreement and you don't follow every dotted line, every dotted I, cross T, every period, every comma, I will blow you to smithereens, and I know where you are right now, and you gave the head of the Taliban his exact location. I'm asking that, number one, is that true? Would you confirm that? Number two, as it relates to Vladimir Putin, you say under your watch he would never be doing what he's doing now. Did you have a similar conversation with him?
So in a slightly different form, the answer is yes. We didn't lose one American soldier in 18 months. The Taliban, headed by Abdul, who's there right now, he's leading it right now. They have $85 billion worth of the best military equipment in the world, 70,000 trucks, 700,000 rifles, machine guns, night goggles, planes, tanks. They have one of the most powerful militaries in the world. They can't use it because it's certain reasons they can't use it. But it was not busted up like they say. Some of these things were brand new, never used before. $85 billion, and they're selling a lot of it. You know, they're one of the largest arms merchants right now anywhere in the world. Yeah, Abdul knew that he would be hit so hard, like they've never been hit before, if they kill any American soldiers, because they killed a lot of soldiers under the previous administration, as you know. And 18 months we went, and there was no reason. I'm the one that got it down to 2,000, and we were going to pull out, but we were going to keep Bagram, and not because of Afghanistan, but because of China. 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. We were going to keep it. Billions of dollars spent, massive Air Force base. We were going to keep Bagram, and we were going to be the last out. They took the military out first. So I don't know, you play it every night, and you talk about the hostages that are left in Afghanistan. It's a very sad thing. We have American hostages right now, people, American citizens, and others that shouldn't be there, that should have come out. They're right now in Afghanistan, and it's a terrible thing. But they knew that they can't play games, they can't play around. And he understood. And we didn't have one soldier killed, not one military person was killed in 18 months. And actually, Biden was the one that admitted that. He said, whether you like it or not, there's been no soldier killed in 18 months. Now, people were not happy when he said it, but he said it. And
let me go back then.
That was very unusual, actually.
Let me go back then to the issue of the criticism, because I've known you well over 25 years. And when you got criticized for saying that Vladimir Putin is smart, we've had many conversations, and you've often quoted to me Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Is that how you viewed Vladimir? Did you view Vladimir Putin and people like President Xi and Kim Jong-un and the Iranian mullahs as enemies that you needed to keep close?
I got along with these people. I got along with them well. That doesn't mean they're good people. It doesn't mean anything other than the fact that I understood them, and perhaps they understood me. Maybe they understood me even better. That's okay, because they knew there'd be a big penalty. In North Korea, I got along with Kim Jong-un. When I first came into office, as you know, President Obama met me in the Oval Office. He said, we're going to probably, the biggest problem you have is North Korea. We're going to end up in a war with North Korea. Could be a nuclear war. We had no problem with North Korea. I got along with him well. We understood each other. I got along with Putin. I got along with Xi. They understood. There was never going to be a takeover of Taiwan. There was never going to be a takeover of Taiwan.
I want to understand your thinking, though. And the thinking is we got along, but you knew that they were looking out for their interest at all times.
100%. Yeah.
And you understood 100%. That they were capable of evil things.
Putin is for Russia, and you see what happened. And that's all because they didn't respect our leader. Look, there was nobody, and Putin would tell you this if he was telling the truth, and I'm sure he's told it to all of his inner sanctum. Nobody was tougher on Russia than me. I closed down the pipeline. Biden came in incredibly. He opened the pipeline, closed the American pipeline, and pipelines, by the way, very soon. You'll be seeing that. But I closed the pipeline going into Germany and other parts of your Nord Stream 2. Nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2 until I came along. I closed it down. It was a dead deal. And then he opened it up. I was sanctioning everybody. Nobody ever, and as we said, I gave them the javelins, the anti-tank busters. I gave them weaponry in Ukraine. Nobody was ever tougher on Russia than me. Nobody was ever even close to being tough like I was on Russia. And then you hear the Russia hoax. You know, the whole hoax made up by Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. And frankly, that was very bad for our country. I said it very often. Very, very bad, very dangerous, very bad. And hopefully a lot of things are going to happen with those people because they created a false narrative. But nobody was ever tough on Russia like I was. And Putin will tell you, But Putin will also tell a very small group of people that he would have never gone in while I was president, and he didn't. You know, the fact is he didn't. They went into Georgia, and they went into Crimea, and they went into, now they want the whole ball of wax.
Let's
For 4
say,
years, Sean, for 4 years, they did nothing.
let me ask this question then. Let's say you were back as president tomorrow, or Joe Biden, got smart for a minute, maybe called you and said, what do you think? With the situation as it currently is, what would you do if you were president right now?
Well, look, we lost our cards because we're not really in a position now of the kind of negotiating position we had before this disaster happened. And Putin is sort of in a bad corner because this was supposed to be over quickly, and it's turning into be a disaster because the Ukrainians are brilliant fighters. And don't forget, you have, out of 47 million people, you could have 2 million people that are armed with rifles. That's a lot of people. He doesn't have anywhere near the capacity to handle that many people. So you'll have a lot of people. You'll have a couple of million people, perhaps, in Ukraine with rifles, hiding behind columns and hiding in rooms. It's very hard for him to do this right now. He was going to do it quickly, surgically, and it didn't work out. So in a way, he's cornered, and that's both a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing because he could do some very bad things. He's got big power. So do we. We have bigger power than he does. But he could do some very bad things. So it's not a good time to be put into a position to try and negotiate. With that being said, I think he'd love, I bet he said, I wish I never started this mess, because he's in a mess. And even if he so-called takes it over, he'll be fighting for years. And, everything's knocked down. It's all knocked down. These cities have to be rebuilt. It's going to cost trillions of dollars to rebuild Ukraine. And it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Beyond the javelins and the Stinger missiles, do you believe NATO countries, the United States, Western European countries should be providing fighter jets like Poland was trying to offer, and apparently the Biden administration stopped it?
Well, it's sort of strange that we can give the javelins, we have no problem, but we can't give an airplane. So it's a little bit strange, right? We can give javelins, we can give them all sorts of weaponry, which I gave them. But all of a sudden, if you give an airplane, that's like, that's going to start World War III. We have a problem. You have people that are just being decimated. I see a mother, her legs are off, and her baby is killed, and she's only concerned about the baby that just got killed. She couldn't care less than legs. She's only concerned. I'm looking at these scenes on television of things that are happening, and nobody can believe them. So something has to happen, Sean. This can't continue. This is a crime, and it truly is a crime against humanity. This is something that has to end, and it has to end soon. The problem with Putin, he's got a very big ego, and if he ends now in most forms, it's going to look like a big loss for him, even if he takes a little extra territory. But it's a little hard. I'll tell you, Sean, it's a little hard for Ukraine also, because they're actually doing well, and they'd like to see if they can have their country back. But also, what are they getting? I mean, they're getting all of these cities look like they're almost completely bombed to the ground.
It's a war zone. That's the only way to describe it. Let me play you. I'm going to play two cuts of you. The first one is you at the UN, and you were warning of Germany's dependence on Russian oil. And the second one is you lecturing the head of NATO. You did it. I played it a full 5 minutes. I can't play that much now. About Europe's dependence on oil while we pay the larger freight in terms of NATO's defense against Russia. I want you to hear the words you uttered back in 2018.
Reliance on a single foreign supplier can leave a nation vulnerable to extortion and intimidation. That is why we congratulate European states such as Poland for leading the construction of the Baltic pipeline so that nations are not dependent on Russia to meet their energy needs. Germany will become totally dependent on Russian energy if it does not immediately change course. Here in the Western Hemisphere, we are committed to maintaining our independence from the encroachment of expansionist foreign powers. I think energy is a much different story than normal trade. And you have a country like Poland that won't accept the gas. You take a look at some of the countries, they won't accept it because they don't want to be captive to Russia. But Germany, as far as I'm concerned, is captive to Russia because it's getting so much of its energy from Russia. So we're supposed to protect Germany, but they're getting their energy from Russia. Explain that. And it can't be explained, you know that.
The German delegation was laughing when you were at the UN. The NATO head had nothing to respond. Now we have the highest price per gallon of gasoline in the history of the country. We are paying more to heat and cool our homes. We're paying more for every item we buy at every store we go to, a 40-year high of inflation. You predicted a lot of this would happen.
Hey, we can't
how do we get back to energy independence? Because it seems, I don't know if you saw the montage of Joe Biden at the beginning of the show, this is what he ran on, and this is what he promised, and these are the predictable results, aren't they?
Well, he didn't really run on it. If you remember the debates, he would not say anything negative about energy. He said he's considering this and that. Hey, look, he shut down the pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline. He shut it down almost immediately. He never said he was going to do that. He said he's going to study it. He's going to study it long and hard. So he never really said anything that he was going to become a radical on getting rid of our energy and our liquid gold. I call it liquid gold. It's under our feet. Now we have to go buy it from Venezuela, and we have to buy it from Iran and OPEC. I mean, it's just great. And by the way, and Russia. And interestingly, you know, we're not going to buy from Russia, but Europe is. Much of Europe is. They said, I'm sorry, but we're not, because that's the way it's been. Europe on trade treated us very badly, but it's Europe, and we'll work to protect them also, but we're really protecting them, but they're not doing what we're doing. As far as the pipeline is concerned, I told Angela Merkel loud and clear, and everybody knew it, and there was a lot of reporting on it, and they sort of laughed at me when I said it, but I said, you are going to be a hostage of Russia if you don't do something with this pipeline. You should never, ever make this deal. And by the way, the previous chancellor of Germany heads up the company, the pipeline company. But Nord Stream 2, I said, if you make that deal, you are literally at the mercy of Russia. And Germany shouldn't make the deal. I had an argument. There are those people that say I sent her a white flag of surrender, which I did, because I said, as soon as you have a problem.
Did I hear you right? You said Angela Merkel, a white flag of surrender?
Oh, yes, I did. I sent it to her.
What did she say?
Trying to send it in humor. You know, at that point you could have humor because nobody believed it was possible that what I said was true. But I predicted all of this stuff. And by the way, gasoline, watch. I said it was going to be $7, $8.
Well, hang on a second. Let me prove your point, because I have 2 cuts of you warning about gas prices. Listen.
We have so much oil. We have more oil than anybody, okay? And it's an incredible thing that it's happened over the last few years, a lot of great things, and you're paying, what, $2 a gallon for your gasoline? That's okay. You know what that's like? That's like a tax cut. That's bigger than a tax cut. If Biden got in, you'd be paying $7, $8, $9. Then they say, get rid of your car. We're going to build some more windmills. And gas prices, you like that $2 gas, right? How about $5, $6, and $7? Darling, let's sell the car. It's a little bit too large. Let's get a compact. Biden's plan is an economic death sentence.
You were right, and now you're right. I never thought I'd see this country that I love with all my heart and soul be begging a murdering thug dictator like Maduro in Venezuela, begging OPEC, who's continually been rejecting Joe's pleas and begging for more production. And I never thought in my lifetime that we would be begging or doing another deal with Iran that would include importing oil and making the mullahs of Iran rich again. And yet that's where we find ourselves today. Your reaction?
So Maduro of Venezuela was ready to give up. Had we been elected, which we were, had we been elected, I will tell you, Maduro would have given up. They were ready to just concede. They couldn't have gone on any longer. Now it looks like they've got some valuable assets. They have a lot of oil, and they have a lot of, it's rough oil, frankly. It's expensive, but at this price, they have a lot almost more than anybody. He's going to be a rich person. It's going to be a rich country. You could say a rich dictatorship. And when you look at NATO, what we did with NATO, they were not paid up. They were delinquent. You have 28 countries. There were only 8 of them that were paid, including the United States, which was far more than paid up. We paid for all of the people that weren't paying. And I said, you have to pay your bills. And if you don't pay your bills, we're not going to protect you. They asked me that question. We're not going to protect you. If you're delinquent, we're not going to protect you. And as soon as I said that, they paid hundreds of billions of dollars right into the till. The Secretary General, who is a wonderful guy, Stoltenberg, he's my biggest fan because he never thought it would happen. Obama would go there and make a nice speech. Everybody went there. Bush, they all went there and made a speech. Nobody said, hey, wait a minute, you guys aren't paying your bills. We're protecting you. So they took advantage of us on trade. And on top of that, we took care of their military protection. And that stopped. So NATO now has at least the money, but it has been a little bit of a paper tiger. Now we'll see whether or not they hold together. But something has to be done about this killing. This is a savage situation. Nobody's ever seen anything like this.
Let me put up on the screen a poll. It's out by the Trafalgar Group. That's Robert Cahaley. I think is one of the best pollsters, him and Matt Towery in the country. And now that President Biden has made the decision to ban Russian oil imports, which of the following places would you most support replacement oil coming from? 76.5% say Alaska, Texas, Pennsylvania. In other words, the U.S. 14.9% say Canada, 4.5% say Venezuela, 2.2% say Iran, and 1.9% say Saudi Arabia. It seems overwhelming to me that Americans prefer to go back to your policies. You did leave office with the country being energy independent and a net exporter of energy, something we hadn't achieved in a long time. But if you listen to Biden, it's a little sleight of hand. We outproduced in our first year more oil than Donald Trump did in his first year. But you were handed off their horrible energy policies in the first place. So you had to reverse it, and you ended up with energy independence. So it's another dishonest moment for Biden.
We took over nothing. We took over, everything was dead. We just took it over, and we did great. And by the time we finished, we would have been bigger than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. And we had another thing called ANWR. Ronald Reagan tried to get it approved. Everybody tried to get it approved. That's the biggest, perhaps as big as Saudi Arabia or bigger in Alaska. And we had it done. I got it done. It was totally done. It was approved. We got it in our big tax cut bill. It was all approved by the House, by the Senate. I signed it. It was done. And they came in and they ended it immediately, almost on the first day. And Lisa Murkowski from Alaska should have never approved that person that came in, because the person, one of the first acts is to end ANWR. This was as big, perhaps, or bigger than Saudi Arabia in Alaska. Would have been jobs forever, would have been energy forever. And now we have to start it all over again. So it's just a sad thing. But we would have been bigger than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined by far. And we became number one, and also totally energy independent. We didn't have to go to the Middle East anymore. We didn't have to go to OPEC anymore. And we were at $30 a barrel. We were at less than that during certain points of my administration, as you know very well. But we had inexpensive energy, under $2 for gasoline. And now you're going to be, I see today that even normal, beautiful Midwestern states are paying $4 and $5. In California, it's almost $8. But it's going to go much higher than that. It's going to be a shock like this country hasn't had in a long time.
Let me ask you, Mr. President, about inflation. When you left, the consumer price index was 1.4%. Today, a 40-year high of inflation. CPI is 7.9%. If we use the old standard of measuring CPI and inflation, it'd be 16%. If we use the method in the Carter years. Every single American, Wharton School of Business estimates is paying anywhere between $3,500 to $5,000 a household. Now we're looking at, with these new record high gas prices, it's going to cost maybe the average family another $2,000 a year. Americans simply can't afford this. We have 3 more years of this. What are the American people to do? Rick Santelli had a pretty good line. He said, you know, first it was transitory inflation. Now it's corporate greed. Now we're blaming Putin. They blame everybody but themselves because these numbers represent the pre-invasion of Ukraine.
So the Wharton School, which I love, is the best, and they've been pretty accurate in a lot of predictions. I will tell you that. And the numbers that you're seeing right now are peanuts unless we do something fast. And it starts with energy. If you don't bring down energy costs, because it's a shock. Energy is so all invasive. It's so powerful on every business, whether it's the trucks or the ovens that cook the bread or anything. Everything is about energy. And if you don't get those costs down, you could really reduce inflation fairly rapidly if you solve the energy problem. But with energy doubling and tripling, as you're going to see, it's already started, but it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better with the attitudes of these people. You know, this Green New Deal is going to destroy the country. These people don't know what they're doing.
What do you think of this? That Biden is now nuclear deal, Clee? I mean, sadly, Russia is brokering the deal apparently along with China, and that would pave the way for importing oil from the mullahs and Iran. Now, I thought the last deal was dumb. To me, this one's dumber.
If that deal happens, you can say that's very potentially the end of Israel. I don't think Israel can allow it to happen, and this country can't allow it to happen. When I terminated that deal, that was such a bad deal. First of all, it was a very short-term